Saudi wants it to be one of the biggest flotations ever, a 1 to 3% stake in state-owned oil company Aramco, which could be worth more than $20 billion. But although early November is when the process is expected to start, the kingdom is giving little away.
It will come in the right time, with the right approach, and definitely with the right decision. And it will be a Saudi decision, first and foremost. Specifically, Prince Mohammed decision.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman wants Aramco valued at $2 trillion. He's aiming to raise $100 billion for ambitious redevelopment plans for Saudi Arabia. Bankers say between 1.2 and 1.5 trillion is a more realistic valuation for Aramco.
There is hesitation on the part of the would-be investors. They say until we see an independent and international audit evaluating Saudi proven reserves, we are not going to go ahead and spend that huge sum of money on investment.
Indeed, Norway's sovereign wealth fund, which is shedding many oil and gas investments, says it won't buy into Aramco, and Russia's sovereign wealth fund isn't looking hugely keen either.
I wouldn't talk about a need for an anchor investment because Aramco is generating lots of interest, including from our partners in China and other Asian economies. And definitely Russia will not be making a huge investment in Aramco because already it is quite exposed to oil.
Aramco's flotation was previously delayed to give more time to find international investors. Big players have returned to Riyadh's Future Investment Initiative Forum. Many stayed away last year because of the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, but other concerns might be harder for investors to shake than any they may have had over the killing. Future oil prices are one. September's drone attacks on Aramco facilities are another. Aramco's IPO will be a test of confidence in the kingdom. Rory, Challands, Aljazeera.
OK, let's talk now to Jeff Colgan. Jeff is the Associate Professor of Political Sciences at the Brown University, where he focuses on international order, oil and energy. He joins us from Providence, Rhode Island. Jeff, welcome back to Al Jazeera. Who's got the valuation of Aramco right or wrong here?
Thanks so much for having me on. I think that Norway and Russia are wise to stay away given their position, and they have real concerns, multiple concerns about investing further in the oil sector. Norway in particular, I think, is concerned about climate change and the risk of stranded assets that environmental risk raises. OK. Also, the region across the board isn't at the most settled it's been over the past decade or so. Are Norway and the Russians sort of blending that into their thinking as well? Certainly. And the attack on the Abqaiq facility that Aramco owns just a few weeks ago is a real concern. Aramco's done a good job of repairing the damage, but the prospect of another attack has to be looming on investors' minds. And so Norway is very clearly not interested in investing further. Russia's being a little bit more polite. They're saying, oh, look, others are interested, but we aren't interested. And in part, that's because I think Russia is keen to keep on good terms, cordial terms, for potential future cooperation with the Saudis.
Is there anything that Saudi Arabia can do here, if it wanted to, in your opinion, that would make the Russians and the Norwegians less disposed to limit their exposure?
Yeah, I think that the Saudis need to have a track record of, calmer waters. And so this last, 6 months have been really tumultuous in the region and in Saudi Arabia in particular, maybe even the last year. And so if the leadership in Saudi Arabia is keen on demonstrating that there is rule of law, that there is steady investment, that there's going to be a predictable return, that's the kind of thing that they need to establish with just some calmer time. And if I were them, I would think about doing that first before leaning heavily on international investors. Right now, it seems like their strategy is to turn towards investment by Saudi nationals, principally.
I'm interested in this idea that, it might be a learning curve in some senses, for the Saudis? I mean, if you are Saudi Arabia, by definition, you are OPEC. And is it your sense that the Saudis have always been used to other countries going to them and saying, yes, we will work with you? And it's kind of tough for the Saudis to get a handle on people as powerful as the Russians and as wealthy as the Norwegians, because the Norwegian sovereign fund is worth an awful lot of money based on gas and oil out of the North Sea. I think I've got that one right. For those two countries to turn around and say, actually, no, we don't want to diversify, even though you need to and you want us to.
That's right. And I think in the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund is the largest one in the world. So you're absolutely correct about that. And so when they say, we're not interested, I think that sends a signal. Although in fairness, Norway is the pension fund in particular is saying, we're trying to move away from fossil fuels in general. So it's not just Saudi Arabia for Norway. With Russia, the issue, I think, is a real signal saying, listen, this is a tumultuous situation, and Russia's being cautious about it, even though, again, they're being quite polite about how they decline the opportunity. And that may ruffle some feathers in Saudi Arabia, where, as you say, they are accustomed to a certain status on the world stage and at the very center of OPEC. But I expect that they will have a little bit of a harder time courting international investors while they've had so much tumult around Aramco in the last year.
Jeff, good to talk to you. Thank you so much.